What is proportions in art? Proportions is one of our 7 principles of design. And proportion is talking about the size of things. What do I mean by that? Let's take a look. When we talk about proportions in art, we're talking about breaking things down so that they're proportionally correct, so that everything's the right size. When we look at humans, the average person, the average normal person is going to be about 7 heads tall, a little over 7 heads, typically 7.5 heads. And so I can see that this guy's head is 1 inch tall. So if I take the size of his head and I break it down, I look, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and what do you know, a little bit more than 7.5 heads tall is how high he is. So if you were to take your head off your shoulders and measure your body would be 6 heads tall, and then 1 more head on top of your shoulders would make yourself 7 heads tall. So that's important to know whenever I'm trying to take something that's really small and make it really big. And so if I wanted to make this man the size of this entire sheet of tan paper, and I started with a head, about this size here. Is this head going to be big enough to get his feet all the way down here at the bottom of the paper? What do you think? Well, let's take a look. Let's see. If I measure this head, it is, let's make it a little smaller so we can make it an even 5. We're going to make it 5 centimeters tall. So let me take my eraser. We're gonna make it a nice even 5 centimeters tall. So it's even a little bit smaller. So let's see if we can fit it onto this paper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then that's 7, and then we need a half. So right here, half. So this is where it should end. This is where his feet should be. Should be right here. This should be his foot, and then this should be his other foot. Okay? Does that look right? What do you think? All right, well, let's finish him out. So if I take him here and I come down, here's his neck, his shoulder's gonna be about 2 heads wide, so I'm gonna guess here.
There we go. And then I can see right here is where his collar splits up. And then it's going to come down. This is going to...
What do you think so far? Well, I know the hands are going to be close to the same size as his head, so I need to make his hands pretty big too.
And then here is where his pants are going to start.
So there we go. We can tell that he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5 heads tall. And now we can tell that he looks proportionally close to correct. Now, if we wanted to make this a little smaller on a piece of paper that's in between, we would just do the same thing. We take the head length and then we measure it out, and then the same thing. So now you could have 3 different sizes, whatever size you want to make this. If you want to make it the size of an entire building, then all you would have to do is measure out the building into 7 separate parts, and you would know the head would have to fit in this part, and then you know that the coat needs to come down to here. I've made his shoulders maybe a little too wide. Now, for something like an ostrich, we don't want to break it down into head lengths because an ostrich head is tiny. And that would be a whole bunch of tiny little breakdowns if we wanted to break it down into his head. So I did the same thing. I broke it down into legs, which is 1.5 inches, and then the body, which is 1.5 inches, the neck, which is 1.5 inches, and then we're just gonna leave the head up there. So when I enlarged it, and I made it bigger, I can tell that the body was the same height. This body is 3 inches. So the legs are 3 inches. I know the body is also going to be 3 inches, and I know the neck is also going to be 3 inches. And so by breaking it down like that, I was able to measure out and enlarge it. And now I know that he has the correct proportions to make this. Today we're going to get to learn how to draw an alpaca. And what is the difference between an alpaca and a llama? You can see that the llama is a lot taller and it has much longer, skinnier legs with a fur that is not as poofy. The alpaca's fur, like in this picture, is very poofy, and it has a rounder head like you see here in this picture. Alpaca also have shorter ears, where llamas have the longer, skinnier face and a small face with longer ears that are shaped like a banana that curve in towards its head. So we are going to take a very large sheet of paper, and we are going to take this very small alpaca and make him much, much bigger. Okay, let's look at the best way to break this alpaca down. So I'm going to use the centimeters, and I see that his head, where the bottom of his chin is to the top of his head, is 2 centimeters tall. Then I come here and I see that his neck is very close to that 2 centimeters. If I was counting this to be his neck, it'd be very close to that 2 centimeters. Then if I look here, if I look at his body is about 2 or 1.5 heads tall. So 2 centimeters is here, but 3 centimeters is right here. And so that's 1.5 heads. And then also the legs is 1.5 heads long, right at 3 centimeters. So if I was going to blow that up to a very large size, I need to know what size I need to break this down to be. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4 sections, and those sections are going to be head sizes. So our first one, let's try quadrupling it. So 2, 4, 6, 8. Let's look at 8 centimeters. So this is probably a little small right here. This is a little small because the head is here, neck, body, legs. Probably a little small for our paper. So let's flip it over. So let's look at this. I think I could multiply the head size by 5. So 2 times 5 would be 10. So if I start close to the top here, I'm going to mark the top of my ruler right up here, and I come down to the 10 centimeters. If this is the size of his head, do we think it'll fit on the paper? Well, let's look. That's its head size. This would be its neck size, the exact same size would be its neck, so 10 centimeters. Then 1.5 heads would be 15, so 10 plus another half would be 15 centimeters. So this would be the body size. And then the legs could also be 15. Okay, there we go. So that's the size of a true alpaca. Now, if we wanted to stylize it to make the legs shorter, then that means these legs are going to be kind of raised up, and it's going to be too short for our papers. So if we wanted to have short, stubby, cute legs, then we would have to make the head even larger, the neck even larger, the body even larger. But for now, I think I'm just going to draw a true alpaca, the size of the alpaca I have here. So first thing I'm going to need is the eye. And the eye is right in the middle of the head, in between these two. Now I'm going to use a stylized eye. It's not going to be a realistic eye that I'm seeing here, but I'm doing that on purpose. And so it's okay to to exaggerate the proportions of his eye when I know I'm doing it on purpose. And then the head, I'm going to have this mouth that kind of comes Okay, so I've started here at the top of the eye, then I've brought a mouth around, and it's making it to this bottom line, our second line, which is right here. Then it's kind of got this poofiness here, and so we've got a lot of poofy here, and he's got fur all around his eye, so we're really going to fur this up here. And then we know that the top of the head needs to make it to the top of this line. And we'll throw some ears in there. Just like that. Okay, his neck. I know that the neck needs to come down to this third line that we've drawn. So I'm going to draw his neck down to this line here. Then I can see that the front of his neck kind of comes in and then down to the line here. Now, I can see that his neck comes all the way down to the bottom part of his body. So the next line needs to make it all the way to this line here. And I see that it starts to curve in. So I've curved my line in, reaching this body section. Okay, now that I'm onto the body section, I need to have his back. And so here's his back, and it's going to come, and it kind of bumps out, and it's going to come pretty close over here to the edge of my paper. And then it's going to come down and in. Okay, there's his body, and I know that that's where his body ends because here's our 1.5 head section that we've created. I can see that his belly kind of makes this swooping motion here. Okay, his front leg, this first front leg, I know needs to come all the way down to this part here. And his whole leg is pretty furry. So we're just going to come here. We're just going to make this nice poofy furry leg. And then the very end, he has a hoof. Okay, and then it's going to come up just like that. Might should have made it a little wider right there. Okay, that's his first leg. Then his second leg is behind, so I'm going to start here. And then he comes in. And these are some pretty long looking legs, but we know that that's proportionally correct because of our proportions we created. Okay, there's his other hoof. And now let's do his back legs. So his back legs move from here to the body section, and then they kind of make this angle in, and they're completely furry as well. And then we're going to have a hoof here at the end. And then it gets bigger as it goes up. Now we have another section here where the leg comes in, and just like that it comes down, and then the hoof. Okay, now it looks like he has a little bit of a pushy tail, and we're done. And now you've created an alpaca that is the correct height for this, correct proportions for this entire page. And you've created one that takes up the entire page. Put down a few pieces of grass here, maybe a couple rocks. And you're done.